All right. Hello and welcome to our new series, Unexpected Power Healers, where we will be learning from incredible women that have walked their own journeys and can help you in yours. Today, I'm joined by our guest, Stacey Miyahara of Monday Made. Stacey, I invited you on because one of the topics I see you speak about is the power of systems and being able to tailor them for how we actually need them to be and not the other way around. This is a really unique take on the use of system and the ownership of how we spend our individual energy that I absolutely love. So thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I'm excited to dive in.
Yay, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, me too. So if we just start up at the top, tell me about your business today.
So Monday Made is a business that does systems strategy. So what that means for me when I talk about systems is any repeatable process that makes your life easier. So that can be anything from automations to the way you task manage, the way you project manage, the way you manage your client communications. So anything that falls into these categories of a potential repeatable process, that's what I'm talking about. And the way that we do that is by trying to really understand the way that you currently work, the way that your brain functions, the way that you organize thoughts and concepts for yourself, and then building those systems to support that process.
Ooh, I love that. That's way more encompassing and inclusive of like how humans actually work in this than just
Totally.
like use Asana.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love this. So can you share the journey of what brought you to that today? Like, how did you get to this point? How did you get here?
It's a winding road. Do you want the whole road?
Yeah, as much as you're
Okay.
able to, as much as you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Oh, I'll share all of it.
All right.
So I went to school for design and I specialized in design strategy. So I left that and went and did the kind of, backpacking travel thing for a while and made my way through lots of hourly jobs working in restaurants, and then eventually decided that I would go through and work in agencies as a designer. So I did that for quite a while. And one of the things that I noticed was a huge struggle in design teams specifically is that they often would promote the most proficient designer to eventually become something like a lead or a manager of the team. So the position that puts people in is that the person that's running the team probably doesn't necessarily want to be running that team. They have that position because they were really good at the function of the job. They were really good at doing the design. And they may or may not have had any experience or any training in actually managing a team. So where you're at is someone that's kind of not equipped for the job that they have and probably also not that happy in the job that they have. So you've just kind of thrown the balance of the team a little bit off. So in seeing that, I decided that I wasn't super happy as a functional designer. I was much happier kind of observing concepts from a higher level and kind of being part of that process. So I went back to school and got a project management certificate so that I could then be a project manager specifically for design teams with that depth of understanding of what they need. So that goes on for quite a while. And I had a really bad, really toxic design firm experience. And I eventually just had to quit because it was so bad. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go freelance for a while and see what happens. So the freelancing kind of turned into more of a business. And then as that happened, I started to see some of these parallels between that way that design teams function and the way that business owners become business owners. So what happens is you're often good at a thing. So I'm good at design, I'm good at marketing, I'm good at photography. And so you decide you're going to monetize that thing and make it a business. And then once you're in that position, your skill set is now so much broader and so much different than the skill set that brought you to open that business. So a lot of my experience with people is that what you fall into is this kind of like sea of confusion, not really knowing how to organize everything, even though you are very good at the skill that you're trying to monetize.
Yeah.
So that kind of like brought me to where I am today. I did a lot of years of kind of like brainstorming this thing and understanding that it was a really long journey for me to go from being a professional project manager to then being able to actually implement that as a business owner. That's something that I see a lot too, that people that have had kind of their second life as business owners, even if they've had project management experience in the past, they're so confused and so frustrated as to why they can't seem to transplant that skill set to their business. So kind of figuring that out and unpacking all of that and sorting out how to actually make that functional and doable for me is basically what led us to here.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Holy cow. Because there's so much that's in there. Like you have so much understanding of like, just the frustrations that anyone in basically our positions comes to. Like we've had jobs, we've been in different industries, and now like we're trying to do a thing, but like, why is this thing so hard? Like technically I can do this thing. Why is it so hard? But it's all the other nuanced things that don't really see is like a totally separate. We just kind of assume like I should be good at this because it's the same, but it's not at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh. So one of the things you had said was you talked about self-management and obviously making systems that work for us. The way that you're talking about some of these things, you talked about like, wanting to kind of see the bigger picture, connect the dots, which to me, I'm like, ooh, high level pattern recognition. Have you worked with like ADHD people or neurodivergent people in this type of system setup?
So I haven't specifically. It is a huge part of kind of my focus more recently because I have a lot of people in my life that have recently all kind of been diagnosed with adult ADHD, which it makes so much sense. And I think now that's kind of why I'm starting to sort of gravitate to it as a specific focus, because I'm seeing all of these parallels between kind of struggles that people that have had kind of lifelong ADHD, lifelong undiagnosed neurodivergences that just don't really know, they're not really offered these opportunities to do things that actually work for the way that they function and operate.
Yes. Yes, that was the big thing. When you said that, I was like, oh, oh my gosh, yes, yes. I'm one of those people. I also got diagnosed with adult ADHD, and it's been like learning things like that, learning that like, oh, I'm not just bad at systems. I just haven't found one that's for me, or I need to make this system for me. Like that's such a massive shift in the way that you approach systems. And I love that because I don't know anyone else that's talking about it in the way that you're talking about it.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my gosh. So obviously like knowing yourself and knowing what you need is a huge part of the work that you do. It's also a lot of the part of the work that I do of like intuition, self-development, and like really digging into like, who are you and what do you specifically need? So how does that play into like how you go through the process of tailoring down systems?
Oh man, I mean, so basically my answer to everything is essentially that we kind of do it a little bit differently for everyone. And that's sort of just like the function of the way that I work, that I like to work with people. So usually it follows a couple of sort of similar phases. We'll do first kind of just an investigation of you, kind of what we need in order to build off of it is a really good, really honest, and really caring understanding of where you're at right now. So really evaluating like how you're currently doing things, how things sort of make sense to you, the way that you operate. And so we get that done and then kind of just dig deeper into that. So like how can a structure be created to support this way that you work? So if you're like a super heavy checklist person or you're a super heavy, I love the one thing that happens to me a lot is for a lot of people don't think that a pen and paper is an okay system, because there's all of this information swirling around us that technology is better. We carry our phones everywhere. There's all these people that create all these really fancy automations and stuff like that. And if that is for you, then awesome. But if it's not for you and you're somebody that likes to write it on a whiteboard and erase it, or write it on a paper and cross it out, and that makes sense to you, then that's the system that we build. And we figure out what it's occupying for you and what it's missing out on, and where can we fill in the places that it's missing something.
Ooh, yes, I love that. There's a quote that comes to mind, like the best system is the one that you use, essentially.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Because there are lots of people that will suggest certain types of systems. That's something that I go through with people too, is here are kind of some pre-existing methods that people use, like bullet journaling, or if you use a Pomodoro timer, like there's all these types of creating a system structure in your life that already exists. But if it doesn't feel authentic to you, if it doesn't really respond to the way that you want to work, you're just going to be fighting against it, and it's going to be fighting against you, and it's going to keep sucking up energy that you just don't want to be spending on that.
Yeah, that's true. Man, so obviously I hear a lot of like the business side and like making systems work for business side, but it sounds like the way that you're approaching the way that you're approaching systems specifically, and because you're kind of mapping it towards them, and so that it's very them centered. What did you use the word? Self-health centered, which I love that term.
Yeah.
It seems like a very holistic system. So like naturally there might be some things that are not just business, which I think is actually beautiful, because like, how do you separate life and business? I think a lot of times they're the same. So do you see that a lot in the either the way that you work or the people that you work with, that like they're kind of using this for everything? Like it becomes this kind of catch-all for a lot of things.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think the reason that it does become a catch-all is because identifying a lot of your personal needs and your personal boundaries and what you need to sustain your energy just as a human being is kind of the healthiest and best foundation to build all of these systems around. The way that you allocate your time and the way that you allocate your energy, by understanding the things that you need in order to be fully functional, that's how you then can identify how much work can I get done, how much more work can I take, how many hours do I have today, what type of thing do I have energy for today. So by understanding those things, that's how you start prioritizing your work, and that's how you start creating this relationship where they all sort of rely on each other. The energy that I have as a human being is what informs how much work I have, is what leaves me enough time to put more in my tank. You know, you just start this cycle, and it starts to then put your needs kind of at the center of your forward progress instead of the task at the center of your forward progress.
Ooh, oh, I love that so much. Holy cow, holy cow. So that's something that I see too with burnout, because I work in a lot of like the post burnout space. So people that have been through it, they're coming out of it, and they're like, what now? Like that's where people start, is because to me, burnout is when you basically get crowded out of your own life because everything else has
that's such a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yes. And so like you talking about the systems like this, like, oh, we put your needs in the way that you are in the center. I'm like, yes, yes, like you are taking up space now in your own life, in your systems, and your business, and the way that you operate. And like, yes, that's what everyone needs. Everyone needs this.
Sometimes I like to refer to it as an orbit. So you're in the center and everything is orbiting around you. So sometimes something's closer, sometimes something's farther away, sometimes it's right in your focus, sometimes it's kind of over here. So thinking of you as the center, and all of these other things need to remain at a safe and healthy distance outside of you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful too, because at least for the people that I serve and just kind of my own experience, I see things as very cyclical. Like nothing's linear. Nothing about the human experience is actually linear, despite what we try to plan. So like the idea that like you are orbit and everything else is cyclically coming around you. So like it's going to be at a safe distance and it's going to come around again at some point. Like, yes, holy cow, this is genius. You are a genius about this. Oh my God. So if we could, speaking of genius now, if we could take some of this, turn back the clock and give some sage wisdom advice with yourself when you first started this journey, what would that be? What would you go tell yourself?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things.
I know. Good question.
It's very hard to pick a specific thing, but I would say it would have to do with not being able to engineer non-failure. Because that's a huge amount of what has held me back in even getting this launched, in putting myself out there. You know, because one of the shifts that happened for me is when I started as a business owner, I was a designer. And so that's kind of what my network was. And people know me for that. People in like kind of many layers out of my social group know me for that. And so the idea of trying to get people to know me for something else was really intimidating. And I had this approach that was feeling like, okay, if I just think hard enough about it, if I think through all of the steps well enough, then I will put this thing out there and it will not be scary and it will just work. And that's just not how it goes. You know, the only way to learn how to do it, you know, in a way that works for you and in a way that is actually functional and successful in the way that you want it to be, is to kind of try and then course correct and try and course correct and try and course correct. And I struggled with so much perfectionism for so much of my life. Like, obviously, I don't know that you're ever like fully cured from perfectionism. Yeah. But that was the biggest thing for me, is if I could go back to kind of the beginning of this specific part of the journey and just really convince myself that you're not going to be able to engineer some version of this where no mistakes happen. So just accept that, use the mistakes as growth and learning, and just start.
Yeah, clarity follows action.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. That has been so interesting too, because that variations of what you said has been what every unexpected power healer that I've had on so far has said, something like that, where they're like, you have more than one try. You can do it again. Everything will come back around. Trust yourself. Do it. I'm like, we're all saying the same thing. This is amazing. This is a huge lesson, apparently.
I mean, it's interesting, and it's also kind of like hard and sad that I think so many of us, especially as like people that kind of identify as and are sort of regarded as women in society,
Yeah.
just don't really get taught how to fully trust ourselves,
Yeah.
how to fully listen to what you actually need and what your intuition and your gut is actually telling you. There's so much swirling around that tells us that this thing that I feel is right might not actually be right because I'm looking at all sorts of different things.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I love that that is not only part of now your personal philosophy, but also like the work that you're actually doing. Like it's coming out and recentering that, which is so healing. And that's why you're an unexpected power healer.
Yeah.
What's up? So I kind of want to bring it back around and spin it to the listeners. So if there was one thing that you'd want listeners to walk away with, either knowing or to take action on, what would be that thing?
It is to use your experience as the foundation for your understanding. So what I mean by that is if you try a system and it's not working for you, that's your experience. This system doesn't work for me. It's not because I'm doing it wrong. It's not because I'm not consistent enough. It's because that is the wrong match. To trust that as your experience and use that to make your next decision.
Oh my gosh. Yes. No more second guessing yourself. If it's not working, it's not working.
No. Just try these little moments of take your experience and believe that your experience is the truth. Your experience is the fact.
Holy cow. Yes. It's not that earth shattering, but it also is because we're not doing it. Oh my gosh. Yes. Wow. So that was a great little tidbit. I know that everyone is going to want to know what you're up to, what's coming down the pipes for you. So if you're open, can you let everyone know like what's going on for you, what's coming up, what exciting things are going on in your world?
Yes, the most exciting thing is that, so previously I've done this work in only a one-on-one setting, but I've been working for about the last year or so to transition it into a small group program. And the first cohort of that launches on July 19th, and the program starts on July 26th. So it's coming up really soon. I'm really excited. So it's kind of the first round of trying this out with a group. So that's the biggest thing.
That's super exciting. I'll make sure we put a link in the description, but do you have like a quick link that people can go to?
Yes, it's mondaymade.com/program.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So that's where everyone can go to find more information. They're going to want to do this group program, which they're going to want to do the group program with you. Is there, what other places should people connect with you on? Where do you hang out?
Yeah, I hang out on Instagram quite a lot. I'm at _mondaymade. So a huge amount of information goes on there. I share lots of kind of tidbits about systems and about your care for self and systems. Sometimes I'll do little tutorials. So that's where I spend the most of my time. And then you can also get me on email, which you can sign up for on my website or through Instagram.
Amazing. Stacey, in case it wasn't obvious before or during the show, you are absolutely a power healer. The work that you're doing with your clients and in your industry is so incredible. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so fun.